All right, and we are live. Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever it is you are. I hope it's a good one. Thank you so much for stopping by the Movies Are Terrible YouTube channel. This video is going to be just spoilers. That's what this whole video is. So if you haven't seen WandaVision, why are you clicking on a video that says WandaVision spoiler discussion? I'm imagining you have. I really appreciate all of you that are in the chat here. We got Jay Wolfie, Robin Adams. It's Mephisto. No, I actually have an even better special guest today. Joining me from Let's Go Pensacola, which is a local radio show / podcast that you can hear on, where are my notes at? We've got Saturdays at 4 p.m., News Radio 92.3 and AM 1620. Again, Saturdays at 4 p.m. Welcome the host, Julio Diaz.
Hey, good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, everybody.
Man, thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for being on the show for 8 straight weeks talking about WandaVision too.
It's been great. It's been great.
Today's episode. So, after you watch this at 4 o'clock, turn on your radio.
Yes. Absolutely. And you can go back and listen to the previous ones because, as I mentioned, not only is it on the radio every week, you can check out the podcast form. I did post a link down in the description, so head over there and check that out. Julio basically recaps the week in pop culture news with a panel of guests. So he and I, as he mentioned, we've been talking about WandaVision for the last several weeks, and it's been a really good time. I know that it's impossible not to retread some stuff. That said, the conversations, they just evolve differently. So even if we talk about it here, you're going to get a slightly different form of it, on Let's Go Pensacola. You're going to get a slightly different form of it over on Holden Hardman's YouTube channel. So make sure to check out all those videos. Welcome to the chat, Abbas B, Brad Feddick, and Mark McKeever. So did the weekly schedule help or hurt the product? That's a really good question. And I guess we'll go ahead and kick it off there. Mark, thank you for the topic. What Mark asks is, so did the weekly schedule help or hurt the product? The theories were way too hype and turned me off to reaction videos. We did touch on this a little bit, but let's go ahead and elaborate on that. Julio, first of all, what do you think? Did the weekly schedule help or hurt the product?
Well, I think for me, it helped it. It's certainly up to individual interpretation, but I loved being able to go week to week and spend the whole week talking about what happened, guessing about what was going to happen. I loved all the fan theories and all the reaction videos and all of the debate and discussion. It reminded me of back in the day when Lost was on regular television. And it was every week you had to watch the episode that night because the next day when you went into the office, everybody was going to be talking about it and you weren't going to get through a full day without getting spoiled on it. So you had to watch it that night. And, that's certainly been the case here. You kind of had to watch it at 2 a.m. or before you got on social media the next day, or else you were going to get spoiled on it. That's just the way it worked. I got in the habit of either staying up and watching it or taking a nap and waking up at 2 a.m. and watching it.
Sure. Yeah. And you have to navigate that. And some people are more disciplined than others. And I actually 100% agree with what Julio said. And I know that obviously this is a subjective topic. Obviously it's going to vary from person to person. Stepping outside of myself and looking at the fandom as a whole, I feel that my initial feelings may be slightly different from others because I don't know how much of a negative critique you've heard or a negative kind of pushback against the show, Julio, but since uploading the last couple of videos, I've noticed that there's a lot of people that were very disappointed by the end of the series. And that obviously speaks directly to the fan theories and the headcanon that they've created in their own minds. So from the perspective of Disney, considering what happened with Paul Bettany and all of those things with him just making an off-the-cuff joke, if you've seen the video and not read the text, it is a completely different thing when you see him talking about it. It's so obvious that he's talking about himself, but I do feel that this has hurt their critical or at least fan receptions of it, and I don't wonder if in the future they're going to reconsider the weekly model. What do you think?
Well, I think that they've already decided that's their model. It worked for The Mandalorian.
Right.
It did work for WandaVision. You made have built up some kind of crazy theory that you were disappointed wasn't solved, which I firmly believe is 95% of any negative fan reaction on this, because the negative isn't on the screen.
Right.
What they did was brilliant. The show was brilliant. It was well done all the way across. It was well executed, and it was well concluded, in as much as anything ever gets concluded in the Marvel Universe, because we know it's leading into other projects. These people, I haven't seen, honestly, I haven't seen a lot of them. I've seen, one or two, and most of their complaints have been pretty dubious. I saw somebody complaining that there was too much CGI. I'm like, really? That was your takeaway?
Yeah,
Really?
on the heels of Infinity War and Spider-Man Far From Home, this one's got too much CGI. Okay.
No, you're dumb. You said that. I'll go on record. You're dumb. Fight me. But, I think you get into these built up notions of what's going to happen, what the idea is, whatever. And then when it's not what you imagine, when they're not telling the story you imagine, it's like the people that want to bag on the last Star Wars trilogy. I'm sorry they didn't make the movie you made when you were 6 with your action figures.
Yeah. I think
but that doesn't take away from what's actually on the screen. So I don't worry too much about fan expectations. That's, if you don't like it, write your own story.
I feel like there's a element of accountability for the actual fans themselves. You mentioned yesterday on your show that Game of Thrones was a very good comparison, and as you just now said, the Star Wars sequel trilogy is a very good example. Its fan theories run wild, and before I just totally dismiss anybody that has any critiques about the series, if you have issues with it, you're 100% right to have those feelings. There's nobody that can or can't tell you what you enjoy, but I do agree with Julio in that you can't impose your expectations onto these stories. You can't say, well, this is how I would have done it, so the fact that they didn't do it that way makes it negative.
Yeah, if you have a legitimate complaint with some element of the storytelling, I'm happy to have that discussion all day long. If it's, I'm upset because I thought Mephisto was going to be in it, no, sorry, you don't have a legitimate complaint.
So is there a difference between, like with Game of Thrones, there was a whole lot of foreshadowing. It was all building towards an ending, and then I believe Dan and Dave decided to kind of take a hard turn at the very end to keep the element of surprise alive, but red herrings can be mistaken for foreshadowing. However, in my personal opinion, Marvel didn't exactly lay out a clear path to Reed Richards or a clear path to Mephisto or a clear path to Nightmare. These were just maybe tiny little Easter eggs or red herrings that were thrown in throughout, but I didn't feel different from Game of Thrones in this. I didn't feel that I was misled.
No, I mean, the closest thing you had to a mislead was them casting Evan Peters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That was let's screw with them a little bit. And that's fine. That worked out great, and I like the way it played out. But that's really the closest thing to a strong mislead. Yeah, the only other thing I could think of that was, I'm just like anybody else. I had my fan theories throughout the whole run of it too, and I had fun discussing them and debating them. But as I look at what was actually on the screen in the finale, a lot of them would have detracted from what they actually did and from the story that they were actually telling, which was a story about love and grief.
Yes, I agree.
Throwing Mephisto into the middle of that, or Mojo, or Nightmare, or whoever else you had imagined that there was gonna come up, or introducing the X-Men or any of that. We already introduced Monica Rambeau. That's enough.
Yes.
We introduced a new hero. We introduced a new villain here with Agatha Harkness. That's enough. In addition to bringing back some other characters that we'd already known and loved throughout the MCU, getting to see Darcy Lewis again, getting to see Jimmy Woo again, and really getting to love those characters even more than we already did, to the extent that people want a Darcy and Jimmy X-Files series now, which I'm here for. I all day long. I'll watch that all day long. Give me 9 episodes of that, Disney Plus. You got my money.
Yes.
But you know, as I was saying, the other red herring that I bought into, you know, this was my favorite fan theory, was that Dottie was something more than she was. You know, that there was a whole bit of Agatha as Agnes saying Dottie's the key to everything.
Yes.
The devil's in the details, and that's not the only place he is. There was some big hinting there that there was something more to Dottie than what we saw, and there wasn't, and that's okay.
So that's one of those things of like, was it, I guess, a red herring and not a mislead? I don't know if you would consider that cheating or deceptive on the part of the writers, but I think that keeping us engaged through these theories really did. I think that's what they were hoping would happen. And what you said is 100% right. They did completely throw people off with Ralph Boner.
Yeah, so surprise, the villain lied.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. So we've talked a little bit about this. We're going to break it down for those of you guys that are checking out the video. I would like to talk a little bit about overall impressions, memorable moments, maybe even favorite episodes. We've talked a little bit about the expectations versus reality thing, so I might go ahead and pull that off. I also want to talk about some of the weaker moments, because I think it's fair to be critical of the things that we love, and there's a couple of things that I do feel work better than others. And then before we wrap this thing up, we are going to talk a little bit about connecting the dots moving forward in the MCU. We'll make more crazy theories to get all excited about, to inevitably be wrong eventually. And as you guys are going through this live chat right here, make sure that you just continue to leave your thoughts. I will try to catch a couple of the theories as we're moving through this, because you guys have some really good insight, things that I completely missed. So let's keep the conversation going in the chat. If you're watching this in playback, same deal. Leave it down in the comments section. We will continue this conversation on, because despite the fact that the finale is over, we still got another week of WandaVision. Julio, are you excited about seeing the making of?
Yeah, the behind the scenes episode that's coming up next week, that'll be fun. I don't know that I'm going to jump up at 2 a.m. to watch that. I'll probably watch it when I get up the next day. But it gives us a little carryover, a little something to maybe see some of what the makers of this show were thinking of in terms of where they intended to lead us or mislead us. And, you know, it gives us something to watch while we're waiting for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Or as I keep calling it in my head, the Falcon and the Snowman, which is a totally different thing.
Different thing. Yeah, I can't believe how soon that's coming up. This is very exciting, because despite the fact that we have... Hey, nice shirt, by the way, dude. I just now noticed that. That's fucking great.
I always try to be coordinated. That's Butcher Billy, so it's a mashup of Gary Newman and The Vision.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
I have a Scarlet Witch shirt, too, which I intended to wear, but I couldn't put my fingers on it. In the rush to get ready to be on the air.
Dude, Julio came through clutch at about 9:59. I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to go ahead and start the show. And then right before I did it, I got that ding little notification on Meet saying he was here. So I was like, score. If Julio wasn't here, as I mentioned yesterday, I was going to bring special guest Mephisto on. However, he was not available. So overall impressions, the writing I did feel was very, very good where it counted. And as Julio mentioned a moment ago, this is a story of love and grief and loss, and a very personal journey for Wanda, who we've seen just lose things over and over again throughout this series. So in a way, she's, she kind of is that character that carries a rain cloud over her. And I really like that melancholy. But while I do feel that those elements were very strong, it's hard to say what was put in place simply to set up for what comes ahead versus how much was side characters kind of getting tossed to the wayside prematurely because they weren't exactly sure how to give a satisfying conclusion to it. So positive on the writing, everything between Wanda and Vision. I thought the dialogue, especially Vision's dialogue, was very poignant and always really good. So I feel that the writing overall ended up falling on the favorable side all the way through. They were really able to pay attention to detail to those early sitcoms that they addressed, and kind of adjusting their writing style from one era to the next and doing it in a very effective way. Some of the real world stuff I felt was just a little underdeveloped, in particular the villain Hayward. I kind of wish that there was more to Hayward than just evil government, G-man, which is always a trope. But so while I think the core stuff, the stuff that mattered the most, was executed almost flawlessly, I do feel that a couple of the secondary characters weren't quite there. Julio, what do you think about the writing of the show?
Well, I mean, there's one line in this series that is going to be a line that it continues to be remembered for forever to come. It's going to be, up there with your great power comes great responsibility, and that's and that is, what is grief but love that persists.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is already like the line out of this whole series. It's kind of the thesis statement of what this show is. But it's also just one of those lines that it's going to stick with people forever.
Yeah, I agree.
Just a brilliant piece of dialogue, and that sums it up. Could Hayward have used a little more development? Maybe. I mean, I think that if you think about him in the perspective of what has happened throughout the Marvel universe, it's not that he's well drawn enough, as well drawn as he has to be. Keep in mind that this is a world where they've just come out of 5 years of half the world disappearing and coming back. The threat level, as far as regular humans are concerned, has to be through the roof.
Yeah.
There was some talk about, Westview's kind of run down when you see the real world of it. It's like, yeah, the whole world's kind of run down. They just went through basically an apocalypse.
Yeah. I didn't really think about outside of Westview, because you're absolutely right.
So in the larger universe, I can see where they felt like they didn't need to draw Hayward any more than they did. I think they showed a little bit of complexity. I'm the only one that seems to think that in the previous episode where they show Wanda bursting into Sword and looking for Vision's body, I'm the only one that seems to think that he showed a little bit of compassion towards her.
I was there with you, man, and I don't know if we misread the performance, but I carried that over because you did. You brought up the point, and I was like, yeah, I think that 100% makes sense. I think, to your point, maybe he does have a tragic backstory. He obviously lost people. We do get a little sense of that when he says, you have no idea what it took while you guys were gone to keep things together. And I felt like that was the moment that we were going to look at the way that Monica coped with loss versus the way that Wanda coped with loss versus the way that Hayward coped with loss. And I thought that would have been compelling from a narrative perspective, although it's not Batman shows up at the end kind of theory, It,
that would have been fine, but it would have also been stretching the show out. I think they had enough space to tell the story that they needed to tell, and anything else would have been padding it out. And that's kind of one of the things I like about this era of television that we're in, is that everything doesn't have to be 22 episodes. And then you have, 5 episodes of, to put it in Lost terms, you don't have to have Nikki and Paolo.
Yeah.
You never want Nikki and Paolo. Nobody wants Nikki and Paolo. Although I will go to bat for that last episode with them as being a whole lot of fun. I think that was oh, you don't like these characters? Well, we're gonna make you like them, and then we're gonna kill them.
Yes. Yes.
10-year-old spoilers for Lost, but
yeah.
But this didn't need it. This was the right length. It didn't need another episode. I loved the world. I wouldn't have minded seeing them do some more sitcom parodies, but it would have padded it out too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this was the perfect length. Just like I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is only going to be 6 episodes, and I'm here for that. That's fine.
You're right.
I'm not sure how long episodes are going to be. The WandaVision episodes were all pretty close to 30 minutes. I think the finale went about 45. I don't know whether Falcon and Winter Soldier is hour-long episodes or if it's somewhere in between or what. But.
Well, if it's an hour, we can assume the last 20 minutes are going to be credits. I didn't mind it, though. Like, I don't care about the runtimes. I actually agree with you 100%. There's no reason to make the story more than it needs to be. I feel like Game of Thrones, falls on clearly the not right side of the coin, and that's something you brought up yesterday. Also, on Let's Go Pensacola, 92.3, 16:20 a.m., 4 p.m.s on Saturday, is that Game of Thrones probably could have used more room to breathe, where I do feel that they they told the story they needed to. They focused on Agatha as the primary villain, and that's what I think was more important for them to explore.
Yeah, even though the last season of Game of Thrones, the episodes were pretty supersized.
Yes.
You probably could have used another one or maybe two more in there, just to. I did not have, we'll get into Game of Thrones here, spoilers here now too. I didn't have a problem with the way Dany turned out. I saw that coming. It was clearly her through line. Maybe the average audience needed a little more showing of her going nuts than they got.
Even going back to season 1, she starts to show those elements. But yeah, different conversation.
There more and more as the series went on, and I rooted for Dany too. I loved the character, and I wanted her to come through it and be on top with her faculties. But she, by the time she was literally burning people alive left and right, and I mean I'm talking before she got to King's Landing. I'm talking her barbecuing Varys.
Yeah,
things like that. It was like, okay, she's gone over the edge here, and you saw other people. You saw it in other people's reactions to her. You saw it in the way that Sansa reacted towards her. You saw it in the way that Arya, to some extent, reacted.
Yeah. And then Tyrion starts to kind of be like, there's more to this. All right, we'll switch gears.
Tyrion is always right. When Tyrion is your character in Game of Thrones, that if you're not on the same side as Tyrion, you're wrong.
You're fucking up. Yeah.
Should have been enough of a cue to viewers that, she's fucked up here.
All right, we'll get back to that. We took a little side track there, but I don't dislike it. I'll talk about Game of Thrones anytime anybody wants to listen.
It goes back to what we were saying, but I mean, broadly, to get it back to the WandaVision side of the discussion, it broadly goes to that whole fan reaction thing. And as far as I'm concerned, fan reaction has nothing to do with what was actually on the screen or whether what was actually on the screen was good or not.
Yeah.
There's so many series that you can point at that people want to complain about how they wrapped up, that it's not really what was on the screen that was the problem. It was the ideas that you'd built up in your head that were the problem.
To kind of continue this conversation, one of the biggest critiques of Stephen King is that he can't finish a book. I would like to pull back further than any one anecdote and just say ending a story is fucking hard, especially if you do fall in love with the characters. It's like, we want to live in the world. We don't want to see the world come to an end.
Yeah. But that's the thing. If it's, you're talking about a TV series and you're talking about something that, WandaVision is 9 episodes. Some of these series that people talk about, ran, 7, 8, 9 years. You can always go back and watch the series again.
It's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, I point at How I Met Your Mother a lot as a series that people complained about the ending of, which I think the ending of it is brilliant. And I go back and watch that series, a couple times. I rewatched that series 5 or 6 times because I love those characters and I want to hang out in that world.
I just now saw a good comment in here from Keith D. The ending of any story should be the first thing written. I think that's great screenwriting advice. However, with TV shows, I do feel it becomes a little different because it's always a moving target. They're trying to meet not in a case like WandaVision where they did everything all at one time, but in an ongoing series, season to season kind of thing.
I gotta grab my charger, but I can hear you and I'm still on camera. But I want to point out that's what How I Met Your Mother did. They filmed that ending at the beginning of the second season.
Oh wow! Yeah, I had no idea.
Talking to the kids. That was the beginning of the second season. They had that target in mind all the way through. As of, I think they came up with it midway through the first season. Then it was, okay, well, if we don't get renewed, this is our ending. But if we get renewed, this is our long-term play. And that's what they did.
Yeah, it's very smart. That's very smart.
I'm still listening. I'm just grabbing my charger.
Yeah, for sure. So then we're going to kind of switch gears over to another thing that I do feel was a standout from WandaVision, and that is the music. The score and everything are good, but it was the jingles and the introductions to each of the episodes that really resonated with me. Again, this attention to period detail and the way that each opening sequence was able to just really set the tone for everything that followed. I remember a few of them were just earworms. The first one that got stuck in my head was the WandaVision, WandaVision, WandaVision. So Julio, what did you think about the... Yes. What did you think about the use of music in the series?
Oh, brilliant. And, of course, they got the team that, the Lopez team that wrote, among other things, Let It Go.
Oh, wow.
Frozen. This is a pair of songwriters that I think at least one of them, if not both of them, have the EGOT. They've got the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, the Tony.
Oh, wow.
So they were the ones that did these theme songs and just knocked them out of the park.
Obviously, Agatha all along is the big standout.
Dude, number 1 on iTunes. 45
so
seconds.
Crazy.
Or buying it as a download.
Huh. Did you get it?
I didn't, but I just heard that the other day. I watched, who was interviewing Catherine Hahn? Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers did an interview with Catherine Hahn a couple of days ago, and he mentioned it during the course of that. It's just like, I can't believe this is happening. Because that is her singing the female vocal on that.
Oh, well, yeah. I really do like the quirky use of music, and I felt that Catherine Hahn was one of the many standouts of the shows. And I guess this is a good time to kind of talk about Agatha's progression, where she started as this sort of the stereotypical nosy neighbor from sitcoms. It was a very tropey character, but I felt that she really she was so good in each and every one of those episodes that had I not have heard all of the theories about Agatha Harkness prior to watching the series, I don't think that I would have had any suspicions of her. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was something before, but it was when Sparky was found in the bushes that I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, that one was where the people that were watching the show that haven't watched all of these sitcoms and didn't have the Marvel Cinematic, or not the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the Marvel Comics knowledge background, that should have been the one that was the red flag to everybody. Yeah,
that's a good point.
And I think that's why they put it in there, right? I really do. Because you can't assume, even though these shows are so fan driven and so fan based, you can't assume that everybody that's watching the show is a fan,
right?
Or any fan. I know I've heard about people that are just coming into Marvel with this show, that they discovered this show on Disney Plus and they liked it, and it may have gotten them to go back and watch some of the other Marvel stuff that they hadn't really paid much attention to in the past. But Kevin Smith on his Fat Man Beyond podcast talks a lot about his wife had virtually no interest in the Marvel movies before this, and she got into this and really liked it, and they've gone back and watched some of the other stuff together because of that.
That's interesting. Similar situation at my house.
One of the 9 geek overlords of the world, and his wife wasn't even into it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's crazy to think this is literally the first MCU thing that somebody has seen. There's somebody that never seen a Marvel movie and they watched WandaVision first, and I think that's super cool.
Everything is somebody first. They used to write the comics with that in mind. It used to be that every issue was somebody's first issue, so you'd always get a little recap, and you'd get a little exposition that would kind of let people in on the background of stuff, and you'd have the little boxes with little notes from the editors. They don't do that so much anymore. They've pretty much given up on that, and that's part of why comics are struggling right now, I think.
That's actually an interesting perspective that I've never heard of until now, and I can completely buy into it. I did want to take a second to read out a couple of the chats. Allison Becker, welcome to the conversation. She says, if people complain about this show, they should manage their expectations. This show is perfect, and they gave us what they promised. If you look away from the Ralph Boner, I kind of co-sign that. I'm always very weary about assigning, reasons why other people. I don't want to ever dismiss anybody else's opinion. I can speak very strongly from my perspective, and I agree with the sentiments. However, I don't think that everybody that disliked it, it was strictly because of headcanon. But
I'm sure that not everybody, and I'm willing to listen. Like I said earlier, I'm willing to listen to anybody that has a legitimate criticism of the show, and there's room for legitimate criticism of the show. But that's not what the majority of that is. The majority of it is, I wanted this. I had in my head that Mephisto was going to be here, and now I'm mad.
Yes.
I'm with Allison 100%. I'm Team Allison.
Thomas Gonzalez says the show was great, but it did let me down on Hayward and Pietro. It's my only gripe. It's the show's fault for misleading me into false narrative. I understand where you're coming from there as well.
The Pietro of it all was absolutely intentional. They hired Evan Peters intentionally. That was there's no question about that. They were screwing with you on that, dude. And I love that they did that, but I get why some people might not.
Was it the equivalent of Luke Skywalker throwing the fucking lightsaber over his back in The Last Jedi?
No.
Okay.
I mean, that didn't bother me either. But,
no, me neither.
But no, this was different. This was a wink and a nod. This wasn't a shock moment. It was a shock moment, but it was, in the end, it's, we know what you were thinking. We're fooling with you. We're pulling your leg here. It doesn't mean that we're not going to see the Fox X-Men come into the fold at some point. We don't know what they're going to do with that. We know, the only thing we know is that Kevin Feige at one point, and we know this from Patrick Stewart, Kevin Feige at one point had a conversation with Patrick Stewart about not necessarily WandaVision, but about coming back as Professor X. And he turned it down. He said that if we hadn't made Logan, I probably would do it, but Logan needs to be the final word on that character, and on my performance as that character, and I don't feel right about coming back to the character after that.
What's up, McLovin? Shout out to McLovin in the chat. Good to hear from you, other than the Godzilla sucks thing. I never appreciate that. But other than that, it's always good to see you, man. Connor Stork, what's up, buddy? Bran in the chat. We got the King of Westeros up in the chat. Illuminate. What's up, Patrick McCabe? Just trying to shout out everybody real quick. Groot. Drunk.
I hope the King of Westeros didn't miss the Game of Thrones discussion.
Yeah, right? Right. Nick Mayfield, what's up, buddy? Hadn't been in the chat, but been listening. Glad to hear it. Always good to hear from the Team Terrible usual suspects. All right, we're going to go ahead and switch gears here for a moment and start talking about, in addition to the music, there was also these commercials that appeared throughout, which did hold very key information in them. And there were a couple that were very quirky and enjoyable. Julio, was there one or two that kind of stood out to you?
Well, the commercials are another thing that there was a lot of fan theories about, that most of those fan theories did not come into actual play. There was the theory that the two actors in the commercials were Wanda's real parents. Nope. There was the theory that each of the commercials represented one of the Infinity Stones. Nope. That didn't happen. But each of them did provide some context and some elaboration into Wanda's history and what was going on in her head. They each did represent moments of trauma in her life. And I think there is the question of, where did they come from? Because I don't know that they were something that Wanda put into her broadcasts. Or did Agatha have something to do with them? There's something to that. There was another theory going around that they were messages from Doctor Strange, which obviously did not come to play. We didn't even see Doctor Strange in this, although there was the brief mention of the Sorcerer Supreme in the finale. Not Doctor Strange, just the Sorcerer Supreme.
I like that idea that you just now mentioned about Agatha being responsible for the commercials, because when the shark in the Yo Magic commercial, it's not they steal my magic, it's I steal your magic. And that really comes, I mean, Agatha was clearly the shark. She was clearly the predator. And I don't wonder if in the sort of Modern Family episode, the reason why Wanda was so drained in the beginning is because Agatha had been slowly draining her of her powers.
Yeah, I think that's a definite.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't think about it.
If that's something.
Hey, I lost you for a second.
Uh-oh.
You're good. You're back.
Okay.
What was the last thing you said? I'm sorry.
It would be interesting to see if that's something they address in the behind the scenes episode next week. I would like to see them address that.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting concept that I really didn't put much thought into. Memorable moments, favorite episodes. There's a couple of things that I would like to talk about specifically. One of the standouts to me was when Vision kind of had that breakthrough moment in the Modern Family episode. I can't remember the episode numbers right now, but he's sitting in front of the RV and he's talking. Then he's like, what am I even doing? Why am I talking to you? And he tears the mic off and gets up and he goes to get Wanda. I really like that.
I like that. And, I like that whenever it was done on those kind of mockumentary shows too, that, that became so big in the 2000s, because really it goes back to The Office as the template for all of those shows that followed, be it Modern Family or Parks and Recreation, or there's been a number of them. There are a couple of times in The Office where they'd remind you, oh yeah, they're filming a documentary, and somebody would jump out of one of the confessionals, or they'd, I guess the most famous example is Michael Scott's last episode when he takes the microphone pack off at the airport and he hands it back to the production crew, and then after he's walking away, Pam runs after him and they have their goodbye moment, but the crew can't hear what they're saying. So that is a moment that's taken from the inspiration from other things, but it really worked within the scheme of that episode too. It's
Hit me with a standout. What was like a part of the series that you're gonna continue to go back to? Is that's what makes the show great?
Well, I'll go to some of the side stuff because keeping in mind that this series didn't just have the mission statement of resetting the template for Wanda and Vision, because we do have a very different Wanda and a very different Vision that will be going forward into the Marvel Cinematic Universe after this. But you had to establish Monica Rambeau and her superpowers. And, yes, she was a character that was established as a child in Captain Marvel, but you had to establish the adult version and what her evolution into a hero was going to be. So seeing her come back from the snap, she'd been snapped, and seeing that whole scene of that other perspective.
Great moment.
With her coming back to life and the chaos of all of that. And with all the voices that she was hearing from, her mother and Nick Fury and Carol Danvers and all these other characters. And then the second stage of that with her running through the hex.
That was a great moment. That was a very good moment. There's a couple of weird ones for me. Kind of, you got my brain jogging about a couple. There was the episode 1 moment where Mr. Hart started choking, and then Kitty, Mrs. Hart, starts saying, "Stop it, stop it," and she's smiling, she's like crying at the same time. It was one of the first very surreal moments in the series, and then the disassembled Vision when Wanda actually goes into the sword facility was also pretty shocking and something that's going to stick with me.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that where there's a lot of, like the creepy moments that seep into the sitcom world that are just played just perfectly. They're never overplayed. And, but I think we even saw some of that in the finale, because I think the performance that Catherine Hahn gives when Wanda punishes her by turning her back into Agnes is just, you could tell, like there is like a seething resentment under that veneer that she's giving. It's hurting her. She's angry and she's in pain. but it's behind this artifice of okie dokie artichoke.
Yes. I actually went back and watched the episode with your because you mentioned that on the show yesterday. Today, 4 p.m. But the fact that there is a whole second layer to the performance, and then I was watching it last night. I was like, oh, I see what Julio's talking about there. Yeah, she has a bunch of great moments in herself. In itself. Obviously, Evan Peters showing up at the door of the house was a holy shit moment. What does this mean? And that, I feel like, is when the theories completely went rampant.
Yeah. Well, White Vision showing up at the end of the previous episode, too.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, wow. Oh, I didn't think they were going there. I can't believe they're doing this. That was, for those of us who know the comics, that was a big, big moment. There's some in every episode. There's no episode of this that's not good. That doesn't. All of the sitcom episodes too manage to have a good amount of humor to them, even though they're creepy and disturbing. They're still funny. They still really, play off of the for those of us like me that have grown up with all of these shows, not that I'm old enough to have watched them all first run,
sure.
But I've watched them all in syndication, Nick at Night, wherever. I'm a huge fan of the Dick Van Dyke Show, first of all. So seeing that in there was a lot of fun, and that was just so dead on. And that was another fan theory, by the way, that didn't come true, was that the big cameo that Paul Bettany teased was going to be Dick Van Dyke, which I think would have been amazing, but it would have just been a distraction.
When you said that yesterday, I was thinking, like, I thought you needed a Ouija board to communicate with Dick Van Dyke at this point, but good for him for still kicking.
He is still, he's actually the only adult performer from the main cast of the Dick Van Dyke Show that's still alive.
Oh, wow. That makes sense, because it feels like it was an eternity ago.
Dick Van Dyke's in his 90s. It was in the early 60s.
Okay.
The actor that played his son is still alive, because he was a kid on the show.
Yeah.
But all of the other adults, unfortunately, no longer with us.
So I mentioned the Yo Magic commercial a little bit ago, and one of the biggest things that I liked about that is I'm such a mark for stop motion, and I thought that it had that very, like, maybe Capri Sun 90s extreme throwback vibe to it.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought that was really well done. That was, I think, the commercial that was, of all of them, the most obtuse. Like, that one really took getting to the end of the series to really realize what it meant. Whereas
Agreed.
The others, the Stark toaster and the Strucker watch and the Hydra soap, those were, if you knew your Marvel Cinematic Universe, those were fairly clear and straightforward as to what was going on with them. But there was a lot of debate for a couple of weeks about what the Yo Magic was all about, and now it's very clear, but at the time it was just like, huh?
Yeah.
The first commercial that really, you couldn't have seen that actually being on TV, because no TV commercial was going to let that kid die.
You're right. Yeah, just shrivel up and wither away. Yeah, dude, some creepy moments in it. But I want to switch gears. This wouldn't be Movies Are Terrible if we didn't at least shit on it a little bit. So I want to talk about some of the worst moments, and I know that's a little hyperbolic, some of the things that maybe didn't work for you as well as others. Maybe you don't have any critiques, and that's okay as well. I want to kick it off with the reveal of Agatha Harkness in her witch costume. I thought was very reminiscent of Hocus Pocus, and I kind of clowned on the idea of witches in the MCU at first. Thinking about it, taking a step back, it's like, that's the thing that I'm going to get hung up on, not the talking trees, not the, like we saw the Sorcerer Supreme and Doctor Strange do a lot of similar stuff. So to get hung up on that idea is silly. I think the costume was kind of a poor choice. What do you think about that?
Well, I have the benefit of never having watched Hocus Pocus, so that did not occur
Lucky
to me.
you.
I thought the costume was fine. It fits the era that the character comes from. So, the fact that she hasn't updated her fashions in 500 years is that's a little odd, I guess. But I guess she did in the sitcom world. I guess she would went through every decade, but Yeah, that didn't bother me. I have very little problem with anything that was on screen. I have more problems with, there's a couple things that were left dangling. I think would be the things that I would criticize more than
Hit me
anything.
with one of them, and I'll go next.
And none of them are really major, but I mean, one of them is, who was Jimmy Woo's missing person that brought him to Westview in the first place? There was somebody that was under witness protection, an FBI witness that was there in Westview. That's why Jimmy Woo was there.
Yes.
When we saw the third episode, never found out who that was or what their relation to anything was. I've seen some people theorize that it was Ralph.
Yes.
That Ralph was not an actor. That the reason he had the headshot with the name was it was his backstory.
I like that theory. It does seem like those that have kind of the X-Men stands are really holding out hope that is actually Quicksilver. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they ever use the character again, and if so, maybe they elaborate. But I would have liked to have had that mystery solved, even if it was and it was very much a side thing. It was very much it could have been it was her or whoever. It could have been Dottie. It could have been anybody. And they wouldn't even have to explain what the deal was. Okay, you're who I needed to find.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very valid point. There were a couple of those dangling plot threads, like you mentioned yesterday, and I didn't even think about it, but the Dottie thing and how it was kind of led down that direction, and then that didn't end up playing out in any meaningful way. And then, like you said, the who was the person in the witness protection program. So, I think
I think was an intentional misdirect, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that is quite a bit different. For me, another kind of weak element, I do find that I liked Agatha a lot less as the witch character than I did prior to that. But not it wasn't bad. But the fight scene between Wanda and Agatha at the end, I found incredibly underwhelming, and just kind of that typical, we're flying around shooting plasma rays or whatever out of our hands. And there was some pretty tragic green screen compositing going on, which I don't understand, because the Vision flight stuff looked amazing. Maybe it's the difference between having an actor versus a CG rendered character. That's what I'd imagine it was. But did you think any of that looked hokey, or maybe wasn't as strong as it could have been?
I didn't notice any problems with it. Of course, I was watching it, 3 a.m. by that point, but and on a computer screen, so that might have had something to do with it.
Sure.
But I didn't really notice any big problems with that. That's what I loved to contrast about the Visions battle, and how the Visions battle turned philosophical. But I think that there was some rope-a-dope going there too, and the way that turned out with Wanda intentionally missing and casting the runes and taking out Agatha's power, I thought that was great. It
was that part was good.
If you're going to criticize superhero movies, it's the easy criticism is always going to be the third act punch 'em up, because it kind of has to be there, and there's only so many ways you can do it. And
yes,
it got to the point where every movie was doing and I guess this movie kind of did too. This show kind of did too, if you think about it, but it was at least shot from a different perspective. The whirling, powerful circle in the sky. Although I guess this was a hexagon and not a circle.
That's a good point.
But it was shot from the perspective of being up in it rather than looking up at it from the ground. And but all those, the big energy battle in the sky thing that happens in so many of these, it really got to be a cliche to the point where it detracted, and people started going away from that. And I think they got away from it in this by shooting it from that perspective rather than shooting it from, let's look up from the ground and see what's coming to kill us all.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and that perspective shift does make all the difference in a situation like this. I feel that it's a difficult thing to navigate, but why I will criticize a movie like Man of Steel for its huge punching them up sequence at the end of the movie versus pretty much any given Marvel movie is that there are still character moments within those battles at the end. It wasn't the Agatha and Scarlet Witch spectacle that was moving the needle for me. It was the character stuff that was going on while, they'll stop to talk for a second, and it keeps you emotionally invested in the stakes and in the characters, where there's not really a reprieve from that in Man of Steel in particular.
Are you saying Zack Snyder didn't get Superman?
No, Julio, I would never say such a thing. I will leave that in your court.
I would.
Oh, thank you. Will Gentry says, my problem with this show was the first 4 episodes. They could have been 1 episode, 2 at most. It wasn't until episode 5 that I could actually make a decision on whether I like this show or not. I get where you're coming from.
I've seen some people say similar. In fact, Mark Bernardin on Kevin Smith's podcast was kind of in that camp at first. And then once he was won over retroactively on the earlier episodes. I disagree. I thought the way they built it was perfect. I understand why they went ahead rather than have those parsed out over one more week. I think because they were cognizant of that notion that some people might feel that way. But I think it works. I have no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, that was the initial thing that lured me into it. However, I do understand that for more... for the larger majority of MCU fans, I can understand wanting to get to it as opposed to kind of live in that false reality. And I do agree with your point about not being able to critically assess it. And like you just now said about Mark Bernardo, Julio, is that, you can't really make a decision on whether or not it's good until you know where it's going. And for a minute there, it was just kind of not spinning its tires, because I enjoyed that, but I can understand it wasn't advancing the plot in a meaningful way. So, Will, I respectfully disagree, but I understand where you're coming from. Shout out to TK. What's up, TK Adams? She says, it was cool that Wanda was watching Malcolm in the Middle, since her and Bryan Cranston were in Godzilla together, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, of course, but he's not in WandaVision. So it's actually a really good point that I did not think about.
I would not have come up with that either. That's valid.
Yeah, absolutely. Good insight. Thank you for that, TK. Keith D, to me, it was like the space battles in movies. Julio, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Let's see. Patrick. Oh wait, where was the one that I was? To me, it was like the space battles in movies where one side has blue lasers and the other has red. And it was just so you could tell the two apart. Absolutely, Keith. Couldn't agree more. Color-coded good guys and bad guys.
Yes and no. Because it's different types of magic. They made that explicit in the story. And it's also different types of magic than Doctor Strange uses. The Doctor Strange's magic is largely yellow, other than the Eye of Agamotto time stone stuff that was green. Because they're using different types of magical energy. They spell that out pretty explicitly. So the visual contrast is important, and I'm sure that was an element of why they decided to do that, but they had an in-story reason for it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And typically you would think you would associate red with bad and blue with good. So they did kind of vary that a little bit, but I get the color-coded magical powers thing. I do like you just said, Julio, at least they did take a moment to kind of explain it, which is one really good thing about Marvel. Maybe it's just because they have such a big team and so many researchers working, but they do pay an incredible amount of attention to detail. So I do like that. So at this point,
in the voluminous Easter eggs in this too, there's so many little clues that are planted along the way. And there's other things that are just there to be fun reference for fans, like the Grim Reaper's helmet being seen in the animation of the second episode. That was just a little wink and a nod. That wasn't leading to anything.
Right.
So people certainly seized on that. Oh, the Grim Reaper's going to show up. We're going to see Wonder Man, and nope.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting to see the theories evolve, but I guess what I would like to say to you guys that are in the live chat is basically like listen to me, listen to us for enjoyment, for the fun of it. Don't listen to me as if I'm some authority on the shit, because I'm not an industry insider. I'm just some dude that likes to watch movies. I get torn apart in comment sections, and it's funny because if one person posts it, 100 people are going to post it. And the big thing that I got a lot of comments about this time was the fact that Vision didn't transfer his powers to White Vision. Vision unlocked the powers in White Vision. It clearly states in a line of dialogue, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I saw it one time. How am I supposed to know this shit? How am I supposed to know this shit? I didn't catch it. Did you catch that?
I did. Yeah, I knew it wasn't him like transmitting something to, he just, it was, like I said, it was a philosophical debate. He won the White Vision over to his side of the philosophical debate.
Yeah, yeah.
And he did unlock his memory banks, but he didn't like transfer his consciousness into White Vision. A lot of people thought that was going to happen. That was the big thing, was, oh, Vision's going to survive because the two Visions are going to merge. And I didn't see that playing out that way, and I'm glad they didn't play it out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and to me, it might as well have been a transfer. I don't care. It might it might as well have been a transfer. It's essentially the same thing. Whatever. It's fine. I'll get over it, I guess.
When we see the White Vision again, that he is going to have the original Vision's personality.
You do or you don't?
I do not.
Okay.
I think he's got the memories and the data, but I don't think he has the emotional connection to it all.
Yeah, I think that
which would fit in with how White Vision was depicted in the comics.
I like how he's like, I am Vision, whee, and just flies away, and you're like, well, there he goes.
Yeah, but he is Vision, but he forgot that he has density altering powers when he flew through the skylight and broke the skylight instead of just phasing through it.
Oh, Allison Becker 94, you're good. No offense, Mint, if you think I was rude the other day. No, no offense if my cursing and over the top reactions to things. I am totally fine with it. I engage. It's fine. I've been wrong probably as many times as I've been right, just in general. Just take everything else out of the equation. So I'm all right with it. I get a kick out of it sometimes because the people that, some people will go in on you, man. Like I've been called names and stuff. I don't think my self-esteem is strong enough to get down in the trenches and read YouTube comments, I think is what it really comes down to, Julio.
Never.
Let's see here. I just saw one. Okay, mods caught it. Thank you very much, guys. 2 fans enter, 1 fan leave. All right. Let's see. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the MCU ahead. Julio, I don't know what your time frame looks like. Are you good for another minute, or would you like to head out after?
Fine.
Okay, excellent.
We'll go. People want to listen to us.
Oh, fantastic, man. Thank you for doing this with me this morning. Okay, so we're going to start speculating wildly about the future. I'm going back to my disclaimer a moment ago. This is purely for fun, purely for conjecture. I don't read comic books currently. I've got a little bit of knowledge. I've done some preliminary research on, fandom.com or whatever, but I don't know a whole lot about this. So that said, some of these predictions might be right on the money. Some of them might be completely from out of left field, but Doctor Strange predictions, because that's the next MCU film coming out. We know that Wanda's going to be in it. It's the multiverse of madness. We've been kind of skirting around that whole side of the MCU. So from where we're at now, Julio, is there any predictions that you want to make or that you think you can kind of speculate on in Multiverse of Madness?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think we're going to see some of this in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Is No Way Home before Multiverse?
No Way Home is before Doctor Strange, yeah.
See, fucking up already. Go ahead, Julio.
Yeah. I mean, we may see some of this pop up in other things that come between now and then, too. Some people have pointed out that, where Wanda is at the end of the final cutscene looks a lot like Wundagore Mountain in Sokovia. And who else is from Sokovia? Well, Baron Zemo is. And he's guy of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So there's a possibility that we see some. I don't think we will, but there's a possibility that we see some cross there in Falcon and Winter Soldier with WandaVision. I don't think we will, but I think it's possible. I will point out that originally Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to debut before WandaVision.
I'd heard that as well.
Yeah, and then COVID happened and it screwed up the production schedule, and they got flip-flopped.
And you're saying this to say that probably means there won't be a whole lot of interconnectivity.
Probably not, but the possibility is there if that's where she is at the end of WandaVision, which we don't really know where she is. That's just
sure.
Based on the comics and all that sort of stuff. But could there be something that shows up in? Probably not Black Widow, since that appears to be a period piece, especially given where Black Widow was left at the end of Endgame, which was not in a good place.
On the ground.
Or well, either dead or in the Soul Stone, depending on who you believe. Either way, not with us anymore.
Right.
So I don't think so much Black Widow. I think that Shang-Chi is probably going to really be about establishing that character and not really dipping into a lot of this stuff, although maybe a post-credit scene might. Eternals, again, same thing, but Eternals are very cosmic, so I could see that having a closer tie to some of this stuff. But I think Spider-Man is the next place we see anything that really ties into WandaVision.
And we know that Strange is in Spider-Man, so there's that connection there. We know that there's multiple versions of previously established characters, which also reinforces this idea of the Peter notion of Quicksilver in WandaVision. I think it's very fascinating that we know they are doing these multiple versions of characters, and then we had a potential for that in this.
Let me get on my soapbox about that for a minute.
Please.
About Spider-Man No Way Home. No, we don't necessarily know that they're doing all these things that everybody is assuming that they're doing.
We know Jamie Foxx is.
We know Jamie Foxx is in it. We know Alfred Molina is in it. We know that we assume that they're playing. I mean, I think Jamie Foxx has said that he's playing Electro. I don't know that Alfred Molina has said that he's playing Dr. Octopus. But he's also said he's not going to be Blue.
Yes.
So,
that's the reason why I said that. That's the only thing I have to go on is Jamie Foxx for sure saying he was Electro and for sure saying he wasn't going to be Blue. Now, are either of those things true? We can't even speak to that yet, but that was the closest to a confirmation.
We don't know that they are the same characters that they were in separately the Sam Raimi series and the amazing Andrew Garfield series. And I say amazing because that's what they were called, not because that's a quality judgment on the movies, because, well, I like the first one fine. So we don't know, but then there's this and here's these 10 million other people that are going to be in this movie, none of whom are actually confirmed. They're just these stupid rumor sites that post stuff as facts just to get clicks that drive me insane. No, we don't know that Tobey Maguire is in this movie. We don't know that Andrew Garfield is in this movie. We don't know that Charlie Cox is in this movie.
Charlie Cox has been coming up a bit lately as well.
You can keep saying that all you want, and maybe it'll come true, but maybe it won't. It's just like WandaVision.
It's just going to bum you the fuck out when it doesn't.
You come out of it pissed off that Tobey Maguire was then I have no respect for you.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Wanda's sex scene in the finale was really something, huh? Yeah, I agreed, Chief. That was very shocking for the MCU. Shout out to Matt Lane from Matt Lane Fitness in the chat. We got another special guest in here. I'm sure he's going to get screamed at for spoilers. Let's see, has that happened yet? You guys know I never know what's going on. I co-sign that, Matt. Totally agreed. Ready Forever's in here. What's up, you guys? How's everybody doing this morning? Thank you for stopping by to check this out. We really do appreciate the interaction and the engagement. It means a lot. Always very, very appreciative and grateful for the community that we are building over here on the Movies Are Terrible channel, and that would not be possible without you. What's up, Tyler? Welcome to the conversation. So we're gonna move on from the Doctor Strange part of the predict. Okay, let me give my prediction real quick for Doctor Strange.
We really haven't got Doctor Strange yet because we got stuck on Spider-Man.
That's actually a really good point, Julio. So for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I have been pretty stuck on the idea that Wanda is going to be the villain of the movie. I've heard some pretty compelling arguments as to why that couldn't work. So what do you think about that theory? And then I'll let you throw one at me.
I think it depends on, first and foremost, on how much they're going to use out of what was developed with what is the name of the guy that directed the first Doctor Strange movie? Scott
Derrickson.
Scott Derrickson. Because he originally was coming back on to direct the second one, and he was developing a story, and then they decided they weren't going in the same direction, and they split off. So it depends on how much of what he started developing they're using in this, because usually when you see these kinds of things happen, you do still see a lot of what was previously developed used in the film. We certainly saw that in Ant-Man with some of what Edgar Wright had developed when he was going to direct that movie, made it into the final movie. We also saw it in Amazing Spider-Man. The reason the Lizard was the villain in Amazing Spider-Man is because that's what Sam Raimi had started developing for what would have been Spider-Man 4, which would have been Dylan Baker, who had played the Kirk Connors character in the previous 3 movies. See, that's what I kind of would love to see. If we are going to get multiverse in Spider-Man No Way Home, I would love to see them pick up on some of that stuff, that long-term stuff that Raimi was developing in the original Spider-Man films that he didn't get to play with.
Sure.
He was playing with Dylan Walsh, Dylan Baker, not Dylan Walsh, excuse me. Dylan Baker leading up to him being the Lizard, but he was also playing up with Bruce Campbell, who appeared in different roles in all 3 of the Raimi Spider-Man, as all 3 of those being the same person who was going to turn out to be Mysterio.
Oh, interesting. I did not know all that. Matt, thank you very much. $4.99 super chat coming through clutch. Love you too, man. Right back at you. And I would never say leave. I'm happy to have you here. No way. But there is that call of, do you want to have it spoiled? I'm kind of in your camp where, like, without context, none of it just all sounds like gibberish. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I am super happy that you decided to come by and spend some time with us. Also, shout out to Caden Lambert and to Tyler Bouchard. You guys are the best. Thank you very much for stopping by to talk a little bit of movies and television with us this morning. Okay, this is the counterpoint that I've heard to Wanda. And dude, that's really interesting. I didn't even put it together just now, is that Raimi was attached to the Spider-Man trilogy. Now he's attached to the Doctor Strange thing. And then there's a Spider-Man movie coming out in between them. It's wild, dude. There's so much going on.
Well, there was also, a little Easter egg tip to Raimi in the WandaVision finale, and that one of the titles that was on the movie theater marquee was Oz the Great and Terrible, or Powerful, or whatever it is, which Raimi directed. So there was that, and then there's some people that have made a connection between the little cabin that Wanda's in at the end with the cabin from Evil Dead. I don't see that connection, but you could possibly consider that a hat tip.
There is the sweeping camera shot. It goes into that cabin the way that Raimi did in Evil Dead. So, which is also cool because they're starting to kind of mix the DNA up.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see Raimi directing that film. I was excited about it when it was first announced. I think he's good. He's one of my favorite directors. I'm a huge fan. I'm eager to see what he does with it. I hope there is some tie-in above and beyond Alfred Molina.
Yes.
Spider-Man films, because, say what you will about Spider-Man 3, but overall that series is so solid.
So the thing about Wanda as a villain is a couple people have kind of pointed to the trope of the unstable or emotional woman who becomes dangerous when she basically can't control her emotions. And I remember hearing that criticism even about the Phoenix saga in the X-Men movies. So I can see Marvel trying to sidestep that trope just to be more progressive, which I'm fine with. I don't necessarily see that trope as being something that's like destructive to women either. So I definitely wouldn't have my feelings hurt if they went that direction, but I can see how that in itself, just the fact that conversations being had might dissuade them from doing it. Do you think that, just a real quick weigh in on that, is that trope problematic?
It is. That being said, it certainly wouldn't be un-Marvel to have sympathetic villains. We've had sympathetic villains already in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm sure we will again. It's not un-Marvel for characters to go from one side of the equation to the other.
Right.
I mean, in the comics, Wanda started as a villain. So, in comics, Hawkeye started as a villain. Black Widow started as a villain. Quicksilver started, there's a number of characters that started out as quote unquote bad guys and then eventually, became Avengers or whatever. And there's some people that have bounced back and forth on either side of the coin, like Sandman. So it's very in keeping with Marvel. It would be in keeping with Marvel for her to become a villain and then have to go on a redemption arc. I think that we are already sympathetic with Wanda. I'm hoping that's not the direction they go. I want to see, her and Doctor Strange on the same side coming together against something that's even worse. And maybe they're coming together against Wanda's destiny. There's a whole chapter in the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned.
Right.
World.
So was this
coming that than Wanda trying to destroy the world?
I wonder if this was prophecy fulfilled, just the little thing that we saw happen at Westview. I can't imagine it was, because they really don't start hitting on that until the end of the series, but it is going to be challenging to get Wanda back to that breaking point, especially now that she really has lost everything, unless somebody tempts her with her children. Which there's a line at the end of that episode where she says, "Thanks for choosing me to be your mom," which is a little bit of an interesting statement that I'm not real clear. How did you interpret that?
There's more to that than we've seen. That's for sure. That was not an accidental line. That line is leading to something. I can see it's going either way, but introducing the Darkhold into the Marvel Cinematic Universe just opens up so many doors to the dark side of that universe. So, I mean, for example, we have a Blade movie coming within the next 4 or 5 years. In the Marvel universe, vampires were created by the Darkhold.
I did not realize that, but that lines up perfectly.
That could be the opening for why we're getting a Blade movie.
Yeah.
If we get to see some of that dark side of the Marvel universe build out of this, we won't see Morbius in the Marvel universe, but there's a Morbius movie coming separately, but that's not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But if we could get to see some of those other dark side characters that were mostly developed in the 70s, if we're seeing, Ghost Rider, or if we're seeing Man-Thing, or, I don't think we're going to see Damon Hellstrom, since there was just a failed series with him on Hulu, which I never even got around to seeing.
Is Hellstrom from the Midnight Suns? Is he the guy in Midnight Suns?
Yeah, he was in that, but a lot of that stuff came up in the 70s. There was a big, monster craze in the 70s. So we could see, like Werewolf by Night, or or even the Marvel version of Dracula, which would be awesome, because Marvel's Dracula is awesome.
I want to see Werewolf Captain America.
I don't think we're going to see Cap Wolf. Remember, Cap's like 148 at this point.
So he needs werewolf serum so that he can go back out and save America.
Well, there are rumors that Chris Evans is coming back in somewhere. So, maybe that's it. Maybe we're going to see Cap Wolf.
I just now saw a very nice...
People don't... I don't know if people... I know people have seen the image of that. I don't know if people have actually read those stories, but I read those stories when they came out. Good.
I can't imagine. Andrew Gonzalez, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Let's see. I got a comment down here towards... Tyler Adams joined the chat. My man, Tyler is the person that helps all of us out with our computer-generated 3D images, and he's the one who made my banner for me. Good dude, just all around. Patrick McCabe actually wanted to say Julio knows his stuff, and I'm going to be honest, guys, that's why he makes a fantastic guest, and not only that, but he makes a fantastic host of Let's Go Pensacola every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 1620 and News Radio 92.3, so make sure you head over and check out Julio's content for even more takes on comic books and pop culture stuff in general.
Cheers, Patrick. Thank you.
Most definitely. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Huge marquee characters for the MCU. There couldn't be too many more iconic at different times throughout the decades than the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. I mean, Fantastic Four was Marvel's first family. X-Men was their first step towards really, in a way, diversifying comics, kind of showing different struggles, even though Storm didn't show up until 12 years later. But that said, kind of allegory for a lot of people being discriminated against. And I think that they're very potent as that. We thought maybe John Krasinski was going to show up as Reed Richards for some reason, even though he was never announced as even being cast by Marvel, but for some reason that became a thing.
No, that's still a fan thing. That's still a fan and rumor press thing. It's that, yes, we know there's a Fantastic Four movie coming in 2023, or I still think they might push it to 2024 because, it's good marketing. But we that's all we know. As far as we know, publicly, nobody's been cast. Have they cast somebody? They might have. Would it be John Krasinski? Maybe. But it hasn't happened for real.
MN Comic Books. Dude, sorry I didn't call you out earlier. Gonna run. See ya, everyone. See you next time, MN Comic Books. Sorry that I think I let you slide through the chat sorry. It happens sometimes, but I'm really glad you stopped by. It looks like we got 33 viewers concurrent in the chat right now, just slowly building, and I really appreciate you guys. That is, love to see it. So, Fantastic Four.
John Krasinski's not who I want to see as Reed Richards, although I wouldn't complain if it were him, but that's not my fan cast.
Who do you have somebody in mind?
I do. I want to see Rami Malek.
Interesting casting, outside the box, and I respect it.
Yeah, I mean, it brings a little diversity. There's no reason that Reed's got to be a white dude.
Nope.
And I think that he's got the right skills and temperament to play that character. And I just think that I think he'd be fantastic, no pun intended.
Yeah, I think that's interesting outside the box, and I like that.
I had the whole FF fan cast a couple months ago, and now it's just like started to go out of my head. But I do remember Rami Malek was my Mr. Fantastic, and then I had KJ Apa in there as Human Torch because he's like the young guy of the moment that seems to make sense in that role.
Who is he?
KJ Apa, the guy that plays Archie on Riverdale.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great casting. I like that. I would be very curious about how they bring in the X-Men in particular. And Julio, I think you and I have talked about this probably ad nauseum. I say the same shit so many times, it gets hard to remember who I say it to. But the X-Men as this symbol and as this kind of icon of representation, and especially, I mean, in the comics for sure, but in the Singer movies, they were often used as kind of a surrogate for homosexuality and just any other marginalized groups. But I think it's going to be difficult to, on one hand, say we accept Hulk, he's a icon, he's popular enough to be given children signatures, and nobody looks at him as a freak or an other. And then we're going to look at a character like Storm, who has no physical attributes that make her anything less than just a beautiful person. How do they delineate the supers from the mutants and still keep that allegory? Or conversely, do they just do away with that whole thing and give us the characters straight?
Well, I mean, it's always been an issue with the Marvel Comics universe, to where it never made sense. Well, we like these super guys over here, but we don't like these super guys over here.
Right.
But that in and of itself is a statement about marginalized groups. they're all people. You don't like these people because of what? Because they were born a certain color or a certain race, religion, sexual identity, whatever. No, they're still people.
That's a really good point.
It's always stupid to hate people because of who they are. So as arbitrarily stupid as it looks in the Marvel universe, it's that arbitrarily stupid in real life too.
I like that perspective. That's actually a really good counterpoint to it. I buy into that 100%. I personally have always been of the school of thought that they work better as pocket universes because the X-Men is just so vast. And I grew up on X-Men. That was my big thing. I was not an Avengers guy. I was always an X-Men guy. So I am a little bit precious to those characters where I'm just pretty much along for the ride in the MCU. I do have a little bit of expectations of how I want my X-Men to be. And that's why I was never a huge fan of this Singerverse or whatever you want to call it. I thought X-Men First Class was the first and only one that really it got close to hitting the mark for me. So go ahead.
Other than maybe Logan, it's the best film out of all of them.
Oh, yes. And I put Logan and Deadpool in just such different categories. So you're absolutely right.
I don't even think of Deadpool as an X-Men movie. I love both the Deadpool movies, but
so it has been confirmed, if I'm not mistaken, that Kevin Feige at least made statements about making Deadpool R-rated.
Deadpool is apparently going to continue in the way that Deadpool has always been, and that's awesome.
Yes, I agree. I wonder if after the success of Logan, if we can ever roll that character back and just make him a successful PG-13 character member of the X-Men. What do you think about that?
My guess is that we're eventually going to see rebooted X-Men. That Deadpool can get away with doing whatever he wants because he's Deadpool. He breaks the fourth wall. He knows he's in a movie. He can get away with going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because he can just throw in asides and mock the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And see, I'm going to be interested to see if they play on that with She-Hulk at all. Because She-Hulk was the original Marvel character that did that stuff.
You had mentioned that to me.
And so let's see when the She-Hulk series comes out, how they play that, if they play on that at all. And then if we get to see like that version of She-Hulk team up with Deadpool, that would be awesome. But
yeah,
so I don't know where they're going on that. But aside from that, I suspect that after they gave us this tease with Evan Peters showing up in WandaVision, that they're just going to reboot the X-Men wholly, just like they're going to do with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet.
FF in the Marvel universe. Nobody wants to do the story FF in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Although it would be fun to have Chris Evans playing Human Torch again, and having to play against Cap. And I thought Michael Chiklis was awesome as the Thing. But
he's actually good casting for the Thing. The movie didn't do him favors, but he looked great in the suit.
The fan cast of the Thing, and this is not something I was the first one to come up with, but I love it and I wholly endorse it. Seth Rogen.
All right. Okay, I can dig it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Seth Rogen would be amazing. And he's Jewish, which is great because Benjamin Grimm is Jewish. I think that would be incredible.
I like it a lot. I'm pro Seth Rogen pretty much any time. So I think that's awesome. I would love to see that. And
then I remembered too. My Sue Storm is Samara Weaving.
Oh yeah, dude, and she's very good. I think she has a bright future ahead of her. Not that she hasn't already had some amazing breakout roles like Ready or Not, but yeah, she's really good. Like her in almost everything I've seen her in. What do you think? And then we're gonna jump right into the live chat. But what do you think about the possibility of characters like Venom and Morbius being folded into the MCU? I mean, you just said you don't think Morbius is gonna show up in the MCU, but do you think anytime down the line they might be interested in letting Sony play in their sandbox?
I don't know about that, but if there's ever a way for Disney to get the rights back, then they'll get the rights back, and then it'll happen. We never thought we were going to see the Fox characters come back, and then Disney just bought Fox. So yeah. I don't think Sony is as easy as easy a company for Disney to swallow as Fox was. And keep in mind that Disney didn't buy all of Fox, that there is a Fox that exists that is not what Disney bought. They did not buy the Fox TV station. They did not buy Fox News or, any of that.
Sports.
Yeah. But if Sony, for some reason, let the Spider-Man rights lapse, then all those characters can't come back. Or for some reason, Marvel was able to just buy the Spider-Man rights back, then all those characters come back. We may see some characters bounce back and forth. And, maybe with this whole multiverse thing, maybe we're seeing more. There's also been the rumor that Sony's going to let Marvel have Peter Parker and that they're going to go off with Miles Morales.
Oh, wow.
I don't see that happening. I mean, I think they may do live action Miles Morales, but I don't think they're going to give up Peter Parker.
You would never give up Peter Parker. That would be insane. Tyler Adams, dude, the name Ralph Boner was like Fox X-Men can go choke on a D. All right, I see you, man. I like it. All right, well, I think at this point it is a safe time for the next, 10, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. We're going to just turn it completely to the chat, and we're going to let you guys run the conversation. So if you have any theories that you want to share with us, if you have any questions that you want to discuss, go ahead and let us know in the live chat, and we will try to get to them. Right now, Will Gentry says, considering how successful the MCU Sony crossover has been for them, I can see other tie-ins being possible down the line. It depends on what kind of deal Marvel will give Sony, and I have a hard time believing that moving forward there won't be a little bit more interplay, especially with the proximity of Morbius and Blade. However, I feel like Marvel is holding all the cards in their deck, so they're probably going to wait and see how Morbius does, and if he's well received, they might be more open to the potential. What do you think about that?
I think it's more likely to go the other way. I think that what we might see is Tom Holland showing up in a Venom movie. And maybe they make a Spider-Man versus Venom movie that is not necessarily a co-production with Marvel Studios. Because there's still nothing to stop Sony from going over and making a Spider-Man movie that Marvel has nothing to do with.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't aware.
It's a matter of Sony sharing Spider-Man with Marvel, not a matter of Marvel sharing Spider-Man with Sony.
So in your estimation, you feel like Sony has more chips in there than I'm giving them credit for?
All the chips, because I think people, we saw how people reacted when the deal almost ended. We know people are going to freak out when they finally say, if and when they finally say, okay, we're done and we're taking Peter Parker back and you can't have him anymore. I think that the will is out there. As much as I don't necessarily put too much weight on the will of the fandom, the will of the fandom is very strong with this one. So I see that deal continuing. I don't know that I see it expanding.
I can see that as well.
I see Sony possibly taking more use of their character. I think they really want to see Spider-Man and Venom in the same project at some point.
Yeah, well, I don't blame them for that.
And I don't think they're going to give Venom to Marvel to do that. I think they're going to do it the other way.
Allison Becker 94, my theory on Doctor Strange 2. Wanda will go throughout the multiverse looking for her kids. Doctor Strange and Mordo will follow her with different objectives. She will end up finding Mephisto. Chiton, I don't know that character's name, but I think that's a great theory. I could see that happening.
Chthon is the god of chaos magic, as it were, in the Marvel universe. So that's where Wanda's power comes from down the line, basically.
Okay.
That's a great idea. I like that a lot. And don't forget that Mordo's out there and he's going to be in the movie. And Mordo ain't so big on sorcerers anymore.
No, he's not. Chief Supreme... Chief says, imagine Seth Rogen yelling, "It's clobbering time." I don't know if he could pull something like that off.
Oh, I think he could definitely pull it off. I think that'd be amazing.
It's clobbering time. I suck at impressions. All right.
Yeah, got blue eyes or not. He may have to wear contacts. But considering he have to wear a big orange rock suit to begin with, unless they're going to CGI the character, I think the contacts would be the least of the problem.
After Korg, I feel like we can do a good CGI the Thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got a rock guy running around the Marvel universe already.
Yeah. Brad Fedek is wrong. He says Hocus Pocus doesn't suck. Sorry you feel that way. Keith D said, could the appearance of...
Harris wrote it, though.
Yeah, great dude, great writer. Me and Julio and our buddy Steve Wise, we were attending Pensacon last year. Actually, none of us were attending Pensacon. Julio and Steve are heavily involved, some of the top people responsible for bringing that convention to Pensacola every year. And Julio and I and Steve, we just hung out, had drinks with Mick Garris, walked around, talked about movies and Stephen King and stuff for a little bit. And he was just incredibly fucking cool. And Julio and Mick kind of share past experiences, and that both of them were music journalists before they got into the movie thing.
Yep. I have not directed any movies yet, though.
No, I guess that's a little different.
Yeah.
All right. Let's. Keith D, could the appearance of the Eternals be somehow tied into the appearance of mutants in the future of the MCU? Julio, that's you.
Yeah, I mean, sure, anything's possible. I don't see why not. I mean, they're cosmic beings, or the progeny of cosmic beings. However you want to look at it. I'm not the biggest Eternals guy. So this has not been a film I've been super looking forward to until some of the casting news came out. And I was excited about some of the casting news and excited that we're going to see Dane Whitman, the Black Knight, in this, which is a character I really like, even though he's not really an Eternal. And I hope they don't make him an Eternal, because that would be wrong. But having him with Cersei makes some sense, because they've been a romantic couple in the comics off and on. And then Chloe Zhao directing this, who's like the director of the moment now. She's probably going to win an Oscar. So I'm a little more excited about that film now. Yeah, anything is possible. I just don't see them with their foot too heavily on the gas pedal on the mutant thing right now.
No, it doesn't seem like they're in any hurry to get there. Tyler Adams, let's see. Tyler Adams, I'm curious if Raimi really could get a Spider-Man 4 after all this. Grace Randolph reported that Sony was interested in rebooting Tobey and Andrew after the multiverse event. I'm gonna say Grace Randolph's crazy on that situation, but what do I know?
Grace Randolph, she used to get some respect. She used to work for Marvel. That's why she was such a good source, but she's turned into one of these rumor mongers.
Yeah.
There's any number of completely false stories that have started with her. So no, I don't really buy anything she says anymore, unfortunately. Would I like to see it? Sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think you probably have to have it be, because we're talking, how long has it been since Spider-Man 3?
2000. Yeah, I don't know, 2006.
So we'd have to be talking I would want to see them well into being married and having kids at this point.
Yeah, it would not make sense to have a young... it didn't make sense to have a fucking young Peter Parker then, if I'm being honest, but oh well. Let's see. Brad just spit out his water laughing at my response to his Hocus Pocus comment. Let's see. King of the Hills 34 coming through clutch with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Here's a donation for support. Here's $3.50 for support. It's always appreciated. Thank you very much. And I'm glad to see you in the chat, man. I think you just showed up, or at least you just joined the live chat. So welcome, and always appreciated. Thank you very much. Let's see. With Grace Randolph, this is from Will Gentry. Grace Randolph seems to have turned into someone who chases clicks too often. Her credibility isn't what it used to be. I agree. I will say, yesterday I posted a meme. Julio, I'd actually like to get your input on this as well. I'm sure you probably saw the meme. It was an expectation versus reality meme, and I'm surprised people misinterpreted it. I always saw it as the girl orders the bikini from Wish, and then she gets it, and it's like a Barbie bikini or whatever. You see the picture, and you're supposed to be like, oh, wow, that's a great product. Then you get it, and it's a trash version of it. I was only talking about the materials of Wanda's costume, but I got called out for it being a spoiler, which it kind of is, even though in the WandaVision art, you can clearly see Wanda's costume in the television screen. I don't know if costumes are considered a spoiler. I was under the impression no. However, White Suit Vision, I think a better argument could be made that that is a heavy spoiler. But the reason why I mentioned that, and then Julio, I would love to get your take on what, if that is or isn't a spoiler, but I don't blame Grace Randolph for chasing clicks. Some of us do this shit for a living, you know, like on one hand, you do have, you know, a moral obligation as a journalist, which Julio can speak to this as well. Always check two sources. You have an obligation to not completely mislead people. Now, making a fancy clickbait title or a flashy clickbait title so that you can get people to your video and then being like, this is only conjecture, this is only speculation, I don't have any insider information, is different from saying, I talked to a source and they said this. So I don't blame anybody for chasing clicks. I do think that there is a bit of a proper way of navigating that to where you can entice people in with something that may be a little bit misleading, but then when they get there, you have an obligation to make sure that you put it all on the line and not oversell something. Julio, I guess it's a two-parter for you. First of all, what do you think about clickbait articles, videos? Go ahead.
I agree with what you just said. We can talk about rumors all day long, but present it as rumor. Don't present it as fact. When you present it as fact, I have no respect for you.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100% there. What about the costume reveal? And it's okay if it was a straight up spoiler, if you would have been bothered by it. But if you saw that without seeing the episode, what would you have thought?
I don't think the costume would have bothered me. I agree with the white vision would have been a spoiler because that says something about that character. The costume does say something about the character, but you have to know that in context. Otherwise, it's just a costume. It's like, it's like looking at a paparazzi shot from a set. We've seen photos of Robert Pattinson in a Batman costume.
Yes.
Which says nothing about what the context of that costume is in the show or the film, and whether it's even going to look exactly like that in the film, because of course these things get enhanced both by the way things are shot and sometimes by effects too.
Yes.
There were shots of, and these paparazzi shots always inevitably look dumb, and people gripe and moan, and then it comes out and it actually looks good. There was a lot of that with Zach Levi's Shazam costume. So, that just looks stupid.
Yes.
Well, it kind of does, but in context, it makes sense. And it looked better in the film. It always looks better in the film. So. And
then on the flip side of that, you look at Batman's costume when he's having his vision in BVS. He's got the trench coat on, the goggles. Without seeing the movie, you wouldn't realize that that's not his actual costume. So I think context matters a lot. And anyways, I can see there are people, though, again, back to the accountability thing. It's like you got to be aware that if you go onto YouTube the day that a Marvel thing drops, there are going to be thumbnails all the way down the fucking line and your suggestions and your recommendations because you're Marvel fans. So I highly recommend, either steering clear of the internet until you get around to seeing it, or just you kind of got to roll with the punches.
Are you saying that Zack Snyder doesn't get Batman?
No, Julio, I would never say anything to besmirch the wonderful Zack Snyder.
Oh, because I would.
Tyler, I do want to say, Tyler, no disrespect to Grace Randolph. She doesn't personally do it for me. I don't think she's any more or less reliable than 90% of us fucking clowns on YouTube. So I wouldn't be too hard on her. But
I can't go so far as to agree with you on that, Jeremy. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She's been in the industry. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
I love talking about rumors. We can talk about rumors all day, but she's not presenting this stuff as rumor. She's presenting fact, and it's not fact.
I can definitely appreciate that as well. I 100% get where you're coming from. Holy cow, guys, 41 concurrent viewers. Thank you very much for stopping by to be a part of the conversation. Let's see. Ready Forever says, I personally would have been mad because I was literally screaming when she got the costume. Not kidding. Oh, okay. To the costume meme. I think that's valid as well. I feel like everybody's threshold is a little bit different, and maybe I shouldn't impose my standards on other people. I guess just from my perspective, if it's not moving the plot forward, or a reveal like Evan Peters showing up at the end, or the White Vision suit showing up at the end of that particular episode, that it doesn't firmly fall in the category of spoilers to me. Like telling you the end of fucking Sixth Sense, that would be very problematic because the whole thing hinges around that. Or even, how Wanda got her costume would probably be a spoiler, but I don't think visual things that don't reveal plot points are necessarily spoilers. What do you think? What's your take on that?
I can see it both ways. If it bothers you, then I get that. Then you're completely justified in feeling the way you feel. Doesn't bother me, but I can understand why it would bother other people. It's not something that I would personally put out there. Or if I did, I'd put it behind a spoiler warning.
Keith, I take personal offense to that. He says, I just want people to stop it with the shocked face thumbnails. That's all I got, man. It's all I got in this world. For some reason, people really like it when you're like looking like Kevin McAllister on fucking Home Alone. And then the white line, like the stroke around you. I don't know, man. It's a YouTube thing. I don't get it. If you want people to stop clicking actually, please don't stop clicking the videos. Disregard the last thing I said. Forget it.
Have it playing in 2 separate windows.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
On your phone and your laptop.
Let's see. Quantum Gear, welcome to the conversation. Hope to see White Vision in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, even if it's just a small detail just to add more story, not leaving his part of the story hanging. So Quantum Gear, Julio said it a little bit earlier in the episode. I don't know if they could possibly go in and do reshoots, bring people back for a day or two of shooting. However, Falcon and Winter Soldier on the timeline was actually supposed to be released before WandaVision. I say on the timeline. I shouldn't say that. On the schedule, WandaVision was supposed to be released after Falcon and Winter Soldier. So while we may see nods to WandaVision in it, it would have been more likely that we saw things from Falcon and Winter Soldier in WandaVision.
I think that we're going to see White Vision again. I don't know that we're going to see White Vision again in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we're going to see him again.
Couldn't agree more.
But what I'm waiting for is for White Vision to fall in love with the AI in Spider-Man suit.
Oh, yeah. That would actually be pretty cool considering.
Well, yeah, if you don't know that the AI in Spider-Man suit was voiced by Jennifer Connelly, who in real life married Paul Bettany.
And Quantum Gear, as I've said a couple times up top, please don't take what we're saying as gospel. I don't really have any insider information. I'm just approaching this stuff as fans. Julio and I do keep up with the movie news a bit, even though I didn't know what the next release on the Marvel schedule was. But despite that, he keeps up with the movie news, so that's good. Let's see. Somebody just now said, did I just hear you say you are not a fan of Zack Snyder's films? Because if you did, we can be great friends.
Yeah, here's the thing about Zack Snyder. I think that he's a great visual artist. I think that he puts together some amazing visuals. I would love to see him as the director of photography on some film that was directed by someone else and written by someone else. I don't think he gets superheroes in general and the DC superheroes in particular. I thought he got Watchmen just fine. I liked his Watchmen film, and I thought he got those characters very well. But he approaches the Justice League like he approached Watchmen, and they're not the same characters.
That's a good point. Chief Supreme, thank you very much for hanging out for a little while, my friend. Going on 3:45 a.m., so it's time to get some sleep. Can't say I blame you for that. Nighty-nighty. I'll talk to you next time, my bro. Groot with the £2 super chat. Thank you very much, Groot. Good to hear from you. This clearly is not the real Groot because the comment is not "I am Groot." A little disappointed by that.
He's got the Groot to English translator going.
Oh, yeah, it's Google, man. That's actually a really good point. He says, what do you think about the director change in Multiverse of Madness? Julio, you want to take that one first?
I thought that Scott Derrickson did a great job with the first Spider-Man movie, but it's Sam Raimi, man. I'm not going to knock that.
Yeah. There are so many downgrades that they could have done. Edgar Wright to, and I don't want to besmirch who was it that ended up doing Ant-Man?
Peyton Reed ended up making a couple of great Ant-Man movies. I like both of those movies a lot. Now, are they what we would have gotten out of Edgar Wright? No, although there's certainly some elements of what Edgar Wright was doing in the first movie. But I'm not going to diss Peyton Reed because he did a great job.
I agree. I think he did.
There is an element of a downgrade there, but that's only because Edgar Wright is, in my opinion, one of the best directors working in the world. I think he's amazing. I love everything he does. But I was very surprised at how much I liked the first Ant-Man, and I think he did a great job. First Ant-Man that I thought, oh, this must have been something Edgar Wright did, was when we had that miniature battle between Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket in the briefcase, and the iPod or the whatever it was goes off and it starts playing The Cure. And I thought, man, that's okay. That was definitely Edgar Wright. Nope, that was Peyton Reed's idea.
So, interesting. Yeah. I guess on paper.
Yeah, no, man, Sam Raimi, there's very few people that Sam Raimi wouldn't be an upgrade from. And I think Scott Derrickson did a great job. I'm not dissing what he did with the first Doctor Strange, but I'm very, very eager to see what Sam Raimi does with this movie.
I agree. I would say that the Peyton Reed to Scott Derrickson isn't exactly a one-to-one comparison on paper because I was such a big fan of Sinister in particular. I think Scott Derrickson is a great horror filmmaker, but as Julio said, again, on paper, you look at Edgar Wright versus Peyton Reed is like the filmography between Sam Raimi and Scott Derrickson. There's a huge disparity there in volume, strictly in years of experience and all of those kind of things. So while there would have been a lot of names that they could have thrown in there where I would have been like, oh damn, I really wish Derrickson would have continued on because he understands horror. Nobody fucking understands horror like Sam Raimi. I mean, 5 directors, so I'm a huge Raimi fan, obviously.
I can't think of another living horror director that I would put over Sam Raimi. I mean,
that's a bold statement. What about the new guy?
Peele's only made 2 movies.
Who?
So Jordan Peele, but he's only made 2 movies.
What's the dude though? That's doing the Stephen King stuff right now. Mike Flanagan's. I mean, he's no Sam Raimi, but he's coming up, I think.
Did he do The Stand? Because
no, no. He did Gerald's Game, and he did Dr. Sleep, and he did the season 1 and 2 of The Haunting, Hill House, and
iffy on Dr. Sleep. But how do you follow Kubrick on the other hand?
Yeah.
The only person that I could think of that I would put that just immediately comes to mind as well, maybe I put him over Raimi, isn't alive anymore, and that's Wes Craven.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one.
So, that's why I say living.
Uh-huh.
If we're going to talk, not with us anymore, we can go to Hitchcock. But,
Will Gentry, thank you very much. 10-pound super chat. Really appreciate that. And he says, for the hours of entertainment, you, Matt, Holden, etc., have given me some shekels. Have some shekels. How do you rank the 3 big screen Spider-Men we had? It's Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and then Andrew Garfield for him. What about you, Julio? 3 Spider-Mens, rank them.
I gotta go with that. I mean, it's interesting because Tom Holland gets both parts of the character right. I think each of the other 2 got one part more right than the other one. I think Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire was a better Peter Parker. I think they both came across as a little too old for a high school Peter Parker. And even though Tom Holland is well into his mid-20s too, he's still able to pull off playing 16-ish. And same for Zendaya, who, I mean, is an absolutely gorgeous, fully mature woman, but she is able to dress down and play 16.
Yes. Yeah, I co-sign everything that you said, Will Gentry, and that goes for you as well, Julio. I think it's difficult to dispute that order, so good call. I think we agree all around. Let's see. Tyler Adams, I am stoked for Army of the Dead as well. I'm very curious to see what he does with that. Pete, coming.
I am too. As much as I'm dissing on Zack Snyder, as far as I'm concerned, the best movie that he's made is his Dawn of the Dead remake. Now, a big part of that was that it was written by James Gunn and not by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it's a great movie. I think it's his best movie. I've watched it again relatively recently, like right before Halloween, because I thought it was something that might come up in we did a horror movie trivia or zombie movie trivia.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the ones I watched again leading up to that. So yeah, I'm interested to see him doing zombies again.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it looks like it's going to be it looks like it's going to be a sequel to his Dawn of the Dead, which is a remake of of Romero's Dawn of the Dead, which Dawn of the Dead was redubbed for Italy, and then it became the Demons franchise. I'm probably saying this all wrong. I knew it at one point, but there's weird cross-pollination going on.
There's so many offshoots from Romero because you have the whole Return of the Living Dead thing that went off into its own series.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't really see where Snyder's Dawn of the Dead lent itself to a sequel. I mean, I think if you watch all the way through the credits and everything on that movie, I don't think anybody was left alive.
No.
Although I think Ving Rhames showed up again in something else, as maybe the same character or a brother of the same character or something like that.
Is it like Rave to the Grave or some bullshit?
No, it was a movie that had Of the Dead in the name, but I don't remember which one it was, and Snyder wasn't directly involved in it. So I mean, that's out there, but yeah, I don't know, man. If it's a sequel, I might be a little bit disappointed by that. I'm kind of hoping it's its own thing.
So Peasy coming through with the $10 super chat. He's got a question for us. What do you make of Ralph Boner's headshot? And was he the guy in the witness protection program? And am I dumb to still be holding on to that he is Fox's Quicksilver somehow? We touched on it a little bit ago, but we will definitely kind of circle back around to it right now, because I do think that that's going to be one of the biggest questions coming out of the series. So let's take a look at it kind of piece by piece. What did you make of Ralph Boner's headshot? And was he the guy in the witness protection program?
I think the headshot was hilarious. It's possible that he was the guy in the witness protection program. That's certainly something that they left lingering, and we, like we mentioned earlier. I'm kind of hoping he's not. I'm kind of hoping he's just a slacker actor dude. Although whether or not he's actually Quicksilver, that depends. It depends on where that super speed power came from too. We don't know whether he still has that or not, or if that was something in the purple Mardi Gras beads he had around his neck there. There could be interesting possibilities with that character in the future. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, I agree. I know you're certainly not dumb for holding on to the theory. I think it's a solid theory. I will say, again, as we have talked about a couple times, just don't be so precious with your theories that if it doesn't end up being what you would like or what you expect it to be, maybe you don't. Maybe you would hate it if it was that. You just think it would be, but don't let that too heavily weight on whether or not you enjoy whatever the story ends up being. But I feel like they did kind of leave the door open for that. We've seen Marvel a few times in the past kind of plant a seed and then decide later on whether they're going to come back and cultivate it. I can't think of any great examples right now, but I do believe that
we saw it in this series. We bringing Darcy in and bringing Jimmy Woo in. Those were characters that we didn't know were going to necessarily be important or come around again. Darcy was not in the third Thor movie. We're going to see Jane Foster come back in the fourth Thor movie, who wasn't in the third. So, there's always these little side characters. Well, the greatest example really is in Spider-Man Far From Home is the dude working with Mysterio. The main dude working with Mysterio was the guy that we hadn't seen since the first Iron Man that got yelled at and fired.
Yeah.
Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Another Ralph. Yeah,
So,
dude.
There's history there.
Tyler asked, and I'm not 100% Tyler, I might be misspeaking, but he said, was there mention of a witness protection? I thought it was just a missing person.
No, there was definitely mention of witness protection. Monica kind of catches on that's what's going on. There's some, I have to go back and see what the exact dialogue is, but there is a dialogue of that's why Jimmy Woo was coming to check on him.
There you go. Hopefully that was a little bit of good insight for you guys. I think it's time to wrap it up. It's just about to hit noon. We've had a fantastic conversation for the last 2 hours, and seriously, it's been super engaging. You guys have had some fantastic theories. It's just been a great conversation all the way around. So thank you all for stopping by to hang out for this special episode of Movies Are Terrible Live, our little Saturday edition. And of course, Julio, man, thank you for coming by and lending some credibility to this nonsense.
Yeah, no problem. This has been a lot of fun. I'm happy to do it anytime, and I hope everybody put it as much as I did.
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned up at the top, check out Let's Go Pensacola every Saturday at 4 p.m. on News Radio 92.3 and AM 1620. If you're not here in the area, don't fret, because you can find it on podcast form afterwards, so you can go back and listen.
Well, you can there's also a way to listen live if you're not local. If you download the TuneIn app and search for WNRP, that's the station that it airs on. And so it's 4 o'clock Central time in the U.S., so wherever you met, be on live at that time today. And then usually Monday, Tuesday, the podcast is up. It's available on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts.
And in addition to that, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't already taken an opportunity to do so, make sure that you click that like button. It really helps appease the algorithm gods. If you want to stay up to all of the terrible content, all you got to do is click the subscribe button, followed by the bell to enable notifications. And check out Movies Are Terrible on Patreon, because you guys are the ones that kind of keep the lights on around here. I know it sounds cliche, but like those red lights, you're literally keeping them on. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And until next time, and on behalf of both me and Julio, be terrible. Peace.